Hey, what's up, basketball fans? Matthew Bellman, Ryan Kostrowski. This is the DFS 5-pack. Slide your finger over to that like button if you don't mind. And I want to thank my Milwaukee Bucks, the Phoenix Suns, and Steph Curry for actually giving us some good NBA regular season basketball last night. It has been few and far between this season. You've heard me whining on here left and right, but we had some good games. It was so entertaining that I didn't even mind the refs blowing the call on Devin Booker and giving the Suns the game. I was like, hey, at least it was a good game. It was entertaining. I don't even care that we lost.
Was it really that bad of a call?
I mean, Tucker's elbow barely nicked Booker's elbow on the way up as he was diving out of the way. It was not. Devin Booker took a terrible shot, and Drew Holiday played terrible defense on him for the walk-off in overtime. It was like a fadeaway three-pointer falling out of bounds. You don't reward the tiniest little bit of elbow-to-elbow contact as Tucker avoided it. And it didn't affect the shot at all. So I don't know. I don't even care, though. It was a good game. I was entertained. It was awesome.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? We are so clamoring for good NBA that I'm happy my team lost just because I got to watch something that made me happy. All right. But we're back here to talk about DFS. Solid slate. What I mean by that is there's some good plays. It should be spread out today. But, there's not so many games. It shouldn't be so overwhelming. When they threw up all the Heat and Pacers guys yesterday is all questionable. It's just it was that Elmo emoji with the fire, this again.
Which I've been loving sending to you recently.
Yeah, I at least 3 times a day. If you just look at my messenger, I got a message from Matt. It was just that fire emoji. Here we go again. Yep. Anyway, today's show is brought to you by our friends at Drafters. We keep bringing up this massive overlay contest. You all want to make some money? Go sign up and play on Drafters. You are going to win money if you enter this early NFL best ball contest. They're going to be giving away money left and right. Congratulations to longtime 5-pack customer Steve Casey yesterday, a.k.a. Papa Steve 523, for winning the daily 5-pack tournament. If you want to play with us, guys, I would love if it was just one of you today would start getting into our draft pool. I would be happy as a pig in shit. So please get more players, daily snake drafts, get into our player pool. If you're not playing on Drafters yet, it's just we do all those old school fantasy football drafts. It's just like that, but you get to play every day.
Amen.
All right. Monthly and weekly memberships available through the website. Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. So we got a bunch of guys to talk about today. Let's start with De'Aaron Fox. I got him under cash lock today, but I think you might even like him a scooch more than I do, and I like him a lot. I think he's viable in all formats. Quite frankly, Fox is trying to put the Kings on his back to get into the playoffs. They ain't going to make it, but it's not going to stop him from trying. Good win against the Mavs the other day. See his game log. He's going to be one of several popular players. I do think we agree. While neither one of these teams is going anywhere, the Timberwolves-Kings game may not be as replicable as the Knicks-Hornets, but these two teams have a lot of upside here, specifically De'Aaron Fox, he's not even spreading the ball around anymore. He's just taking this team over.
Yeah, so much to like about Fox here. We like him in all formats. You mentioned it, trying to put the team on his back to carry them to the playoffs. And while they're not going to make it, we don't care that they're not going to make it. We just care that Fox is playing well and playing hard right now. He's expensive, but on this particular slate, I like him a lot in a crush spot against the T-Wolves. You mentioned it. This game in general has a ton of upside all over.
All right, next up, let's talk about the GPP point guard. So there's a bunch of point guards to look at today, but one guy, again, Cole Anthony will get love today, but I don't think he'll be overwhelming chalk because he's only point guard eligible in between Fox and Kyrie and a bunch of other guys, Trae Young. There's just you can only play so many point guards. So Anthony has now subbed in as a starting point guard, playing bigger minutes, and there's no Michael Carter-Williams.
Yeah, so he's a guy really starting to look like he's coming into his own as the season's concluding. Tons of talent here. He's got the pedigree, one of the elite players all growing up in high school, came out as a freshman from North Carolina. Again, really starting to come into his own at the NBA level, playing well right now, in a good spot against Atlanta. He's probably the best player on Orlando right now, especially after they dealt Vucevic, et cetera. He's their building block, at least for the time being. And they're not shy about giving him minutes, which is the biggest concern for him, when he came back from the injury. He's played 30-plus minutes, high 30s. I like him a lot here.
I like the fact that the minutes is big for me because they had really been watching how much They took the gloves off the last couple of games, which I like. You could expose Trae Young on the defensive end of things. I think everybody knows this. He's coming off arguably the best 2 games he's had as a pro. And again, you won't get him at like 5% today, but he'll be below 30 in my opinion, which on a slate like this, that's a nice little bump in GPPs if he has another nice game.
Agree.
All right, let's talk about Enes Kanter. So there's no Nurkic, there's no Dame Lillard. The Clips' weakest spot is inside. They have, Paul George and Kawhi may not be quite as good defensively as they were a couple years ago as they've gotten a little bit older, but they're still really good defenders out on the wing. Looks like they're both going to play tonight. Stay tuned for that. I like Kanter even more if the Clippers decide to rest some of their better players, because it just, to me, gives a better opportunity to be a close game. We just saw this game 2 weeks ago. Kanter filled in for Nurkic, who was out that day for rest. The game was in LA, which is, worse for him because now it's at home in Portland. He dropped 37 points, DK points in that game. And that was even though he had 5 minutes of no points to start the game. I mentioned him on the show that day, and I was feeling like, oh boy, I can't believe I brought this guy up. He recovered nicely to still 6X on the day, and that was with a really, really bad slow start to the game, which is unusual for him.
No doubt. I mean, that's Enes Kanter, though, right? Like, he's going to mess with you. He's going to play with your heart. He's going to play with your emotions. We know that's who he is. And he's going to probably do something similar tonight, whether it's he starts by having 30 DK points in the first half and then only has 15 in the second half or 10 in the second half. Either way, he's going to get there at the $6,100 price tag. He's too cheap considering the circumstances. No Dame, no Nurk. They're probably their second best offensive player behind CJ McCollum right now. And it's a good spot against an LA team, as you mentioned. You got to get to them inside.
So as it is right now, he's a shortlisted player on my list of guys to look at today. However, if like Paul George and Kawhi don't play, which is not unusual for the Clippers, he might become my favorite play on the slate.
Mm-hmm.
So just a weaker team at that point. And I think there's more rebounds when you don't have 2 of the better players in the NBA out there to make shots.
Yep.
All right, next up, let's move over to long shots. A guy I do like today who I don't think gets a lot of love. I think a lot of people will use Dwayne Bacon in a similar price point at the same position. Give me some Landry Shamet in a game that I expect to be competitive, Brooklyn at New Orleans. No Harden, no KD. That's been well documented. There's also no Chioza and no Tyler Johnson, which makes his minutes safer than they ever have been. Gives you the opportunity to pay down at shooting guard because all the good big money plays are at every other position outside of shooting guard with the exception of Kyrie. It's a good matchup. He has 9+ 3-point attempts in 3 of the last 4 out there looking like Steph Curry.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you I can't remember exactly how you put it, but kind of to air your dirty Landry, something like that. If we were titling videos, I think that would have been apropos here. Again, you mentioned it. Very short-handed Brooklyn team. Ton of 3-point shot attempts. Whenever a guy is taking that many shots and he's this cheap, I think you got to look at him, especially for a team that's missing so many guys in a good spot against New Orleans. Pay down option at a weaker shooting guard. He looks like a legit upside long shot.
And this dude can shoot. Like, this is not a 3-point attempt guy who's just out there as the only body they have left. This guy is a shooter.
For sure.
And he, you've mentioned this term. He has no conscience, right? Like, if he gets going, he'll just keep jacking it up there. He's not the best shooter on his team. That's probably going to be Kyrie or KD when healthy. But he probably believes he's the best shooter on the team.
And he's one of these guys, like, he knows that's his role. Like, He's on the team because he's a great shooter. That's it.
He plays with Joe Harris, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, who are 3 of the best shooters in the NBA. He probably thinks he's the best, even though he's not.
Amen.
All right, next up. So I want to talk about another long shot today. And it's a long shot only by probably ownership and the build for today. So Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. We like this game. I like the idea of a pivot off of a more popular Karl Anthony Towns right here. And he's been in a subtle rut, but he's had some hard spots recently. This is a game I think he could go off.
Yeah, a lot to like about Edwards here. Again, I mean, you talked about it on the members only video, but he had been in such tough spots prior to this. Now he gets like the dream spot against the Kings. We talked about Fox earlier. We like this game all over for, upside purposes. And the more I look at this slate, the more I just want exposure to this game. Edwards, I guess it's a little bit interesting with LaMelo coming back, but at this point he seems like the runaway rookie of the year because LaMelo hasn't played in a while. And that's going to be a battle until the season ends. So I expect Edwards to be putting up numbers until that point.
When did they say LaMelo's coming back?
I think they said yesterday he's coming back in like a week.
Interesting. Huh.
Apparently his wrist is like healed, because I had thought that he was out for the year, which it sounds like you probably had thought too.
That's kind of what I'd been under the impression. I hadn't been.
I had neither. It came out yesterday that he's like potentially 7 to 10 days away from returning to game action.
Nice. Well, sometimes some of these athletes they can recover freakishly fast. I think about the Adrian Peterson knee injury.
The biggest probably part of why is they're freaks.
Yeah, and then 2 years ago when Mike Trout had the substantial injury, and one of his teammates, I think it was Simmons, was quoted as saying, "Well, he does everything better than everybody else, anyways. Why wouldn't he get better from an injury quicker?"
It was either like a knee or a broken finger or something.
Yeah, and he came back like in half the time they
2
expected.
weeks. He was supposed to miss a month, and he came back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I don't know. Some of these guys, well, good for him. I've been slacking on some of the non-DFS related NBA information lately because the games a lot of them have been unwatchable. Like, who wanted to watch the Pacers last night?
Not I, said the fly.
Ooh, nice. I like that. All right, guys. I'm going to hang up now and call it quits, and then I'm going to stare out the window right now and start crying as I'm starting to see snow come down here in Wisconsin.
Same. We are expecting 4 inches tonight.
I got a good joke right now, but we'll leave it for another day. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.